Oh, I got you. I mean, all I want to do is up front what we get ready to do later on. Everybody needs to know.
Let's call this meeting to order, please. This is the regular meeting for the Livingston Parish Council. It's April 13th, 2017. Sandy, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Ard.
Here.
Mr. Wasserman.
Here.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Talbert.
Here.
Mr. Mack.
Here.
Mr. Averett.
Here.
Mr. Lobel.
Here.
Everyone stand, please.
I've asked a good friend from school, me and Tracy both went to school with him, good friend of the community, and he also used to be in the trenches where we are right now, our former councilman of District 7, Mr. Stan Kane, come say a prayer for us.
What a fancy speaker. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I come to you tonight and I ask that you preside over this meeting. And Lord God, I just pray that you give us, as constituents, patience and a spirit of cooperation. Lord, for this council, I just ask that you provide wisdom that they don't even know where it comes from, God. I just pray that you give them confidence that they can make decisions and provide leadership for this community, Lord, that we so desperately need. Father, I pray that they become an example for other governments, our state and our federal, that we can turn and we can turn this country back to you, Father God, that we can be a shining example in this community of how things are to be done. Lord, I ask you right now to be with our federal government and our president, going through the things that we're going through right now. Lord, I ask that you intervene in the North Korean situation and the Syrian situation, Lord God, that only you can solve those issues. Father, I also want to thank you for coming to this earth. This week, we celebrate Holy Week, and this Sunday, we celebrate the day that you rose from death to save us from our sins. And I just want to take this time and thank you. In Jesus' name, I pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Stan. Mr. Ross, would you read us in the pledge?
Sure, Mr. Girlinghouse. Face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Stan. All right.
I'd like to take this time to remind everyone to silence your cell phone.
Yeah, Bubba.
Item 6 is if any item comes up that you want, anyone in the public wants to discuss, just raise your hand and we'll recognize you to come to the podium and tell us how you feel, okay? Item 7 is an open item. It's presentations. I don't think we have anything this week. So, I'm sorry, Mr. President. First thing we do, we get to the addendum. We're going to do this first for time limit for Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is approval for Livingston Parish Recreation District number 2 in Watson to borrow not to exceed $2 million of revenue bonds or limited tax certificates. The actual real number that they're probably looking at is closer to $1.885 million. It'll be for a term of 27 years, and I anticipate the interest rate to be in the 4% range. We're going to take the debt service on these bonds and wrap them around the debt service on their existing bonds that they have to try to keep an annual level debt service over the life of both bond issues. I met with them last night. Councilman Talbert was there. I think he and I both feel that they have the ability, and they feel very comfortable they have the ability to pay the money back. Due to the fact that they have a 10-year tax, they've always come through the parish council to borrow, so technically the parish council borrows the money and lends it to them, and they pay the note on it, because they just don't have the ability to go right now. I think 9 years is what they would do. So traditionally, the council's always borrowed the money for them, because ultimately you're liable for their debt anyway. So if they default on it, the truth is you're going to pay it anyway. So something that the parish has always made an accommodation for the rec district so they could borrow the money, but I don't think Councilman Talbot, either one, think there's much chance of them defaulting on their debt. Their aggregate debt combined on both bonds would be about 36% of their annual revenues. And they have to pay their debt service first and foremost before they pay anything else. So with that, I'm comfortable with it, recommend it to you as your municipal advisor, Mr. Talbot.
This is a project that it's kind of fulfilling a promise from the last tax election. They started looking at this property back in July, and then the flood occurred in August, so it kind of got put on the back burner. And then, their projected revenues before after reassessment, but before the rollback because of flooded properties was a little north of $1 million a year in revenue. After the adjustment, they're like, what was it, 880 or 885, something
Right
like
at
that.
890,
Yeah, but next year, theoretically nenext year, they're going to be north of $1 million again. They have 175 budgeted for capital improvements this year, which they've done nothing with because they want to see if they were going to be able to, acquire this property. They got the wetlands, kind of the preliminary report on the wetlands. There's probably a couple acres that they're just going to live with. They're not going to try to mitigate it because they're on the edges of the property and they're not going to affect their ability to use it, because their intent is that they're landlocked now. There's not a lot of green space. And we cater to a small group of the whole people in the community, because we've got baseball fields, we've got football fields, we've got some playgrounds, but we don't have a lot of green space. So the intent is to basically go out and create something similar to South Park that Rec 3 has, in the fact that you've got a big grassy area that people can go out and picnic, play. Then they'll be able to set soccer fields up like that occur at Hutchinson that over in Walker to address what tends to be the largest growing recreational sport in the country. And so they've kind of realized that, the flood, some of those situations are over with in Watson. Has been, a lot of people are back in their houses. Most of the businesses are back open. So we feel like that their tax revenue is going to be pretty stable. And so they just asked if we'd bring this before the council and approve it for them so they could move forward. I think we need to approve that tonight so we can get on the bond commission and get some of the things done that we need to get done. So I'd like to recommend that we approve this resolution tonight.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. Wascom. I'm going to read this just for clarification purposes. A resolution authorizing the parish of Livingston, state of Louisiana, to proceed with the financing in an amount not to exceed $2 million through the Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facilities and Community Development Authority, requesting the authority to issue its revenue bonds and authorizing the borrowing of by the parish of the proceeds for the sale thereof for the purpose of loaning the proceeds through Recreation District Number 2 of the parish of Livingston, state of Louisiana, recommending and authorizing the employment of bond counsel, financial advisor, and underwriter, authorizing an application to the State Bond Commission, otherwise providing with respect thereto. That clarified it, I'm sure.
Yes.
Any comments from the audience? Any further comments from the council? So we have a motion by Mr. Talbot, a second by Mr. Wascom. Ms. Sam, would you call the vote?
Mr. R.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Grindhouse.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. LaBelle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it.
I think, Mr. Avery, I'm going to move something to
District 5.
he wanted you to speak on it if you
I know you don't have
could.
much time.
No, I'm good.
This is item discussion and adoption of resolution to call for an election to be held in the spring of 2018 for the Recreation District 5 millage renewal.
What item is that?
25.
Oh, yeah, that's
It
it.
won't be a renewal, it had to be a new tax now, correct?
Correct.
put it on for the spring of 2000.
Well, is it gonna run out before?
Wait,
I'm blind here.
Rec 5. You can vote, you can lose renewal once, you can come back and vote for the same renewal again.
As long as it doesn't run out
I thought
before
we had-
6 months.
That's on Rec District 5.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, who put this on the agenda?
I did.
Okay, I'm sorry. I haven't seen it.
No, he wanted, I think he just wanted you to,
They just wanted you to listen to what we, what we want to do. We're going to put it on the election in the spring of 2018. Yeah, 18. Is what we need to do, bring a resolution, adopt a resolution.
We'll have to do a resolution, to ratify the board calling the election with the polling places after it's been noticed and everything like that.
We just don't want to lose it and not be able to for next year.
Right.
I know we only have so much time to do this thing.
Yeah, I would maybe defer to parish council on this, but given the noticing laws that come up for elections and the fact that before any action is taken to levy a new tax, that it has to be properly noticed no more than 30, not less than 60 days in the paper by the governing authority and those other laws. I'm not sure maybe at this time that acting on, that taking action to do that would maybe not be appropriate at this point in time. Certainly for discussion purposes, sure, but I would be hesitant to take any official action without the proper noticing being done and published. But I would defer to council on that.
You're right, there is a window, and I'm not sure we would be within that window. I don't think we would be, but I agree, we ought to postpone this at least one meeting and let us get that straightened out.
Jeff, you just wanted to discuss it, make sure that the people
what we
know
gotta
that we
do.
want to put this back on there.
We're gonna
Get the support for the kids
That's right.
in the Coyo area, so they have somewhere to go play
But
ball.
Rec 5 area.
Well, the whole thing, but that's a whole different,
So Jim, okay, so when the tax was defeated in March?
yes.
Yes, sir.
So what's the time frame to get it back on the ballot to call it, to try to?
Well, it will never be,
Without making it a new-
yeah, it will never be a renewal, because it's been defeated. So that,
I thought we renewed, two got beat, we renewed.
unless you got back on the October or November ballot, which I don't think you have time to do.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
so,
that's what it was.
And so I think in the discussion that I've had with members of the council from that district, I think the idea was to put it on the spring ballot. And this is just a suggestion on my part, certainly the decision's up to you all. I think that one of the things you might want to consider before that process begins is, if it's the will of the council, is to formally amend the ordinance that created Recreation District Number 5 to simply exclude the incorporated limits of the city, since they now, well, if they have their own tax. Their tax is on the ballot, next week from Saturday?
Next week, the 30th.
So assuming that tax passes for the town of Livingston, and I would assume that it would, but if it does, I think the logical step, if all council members agree within that district, would be to amend the ordinance that created the district to remove the town of Livingston from Recreation District Number 5.
That's what I was talking about, yeah.
And then put the resolution back on the spring ballot. And you'll have two options in spring. You'll have March and April. Either way, and this was something just for point that several of y'all have asked me about, they're not going to lose any money because the tax expires in 2017 this year, but it will be levied and collected this year, so they will get their money in January, February of 2018.
Jeff? I got you.
If we get it on the spring ballot in 2018, we will have time to get it on the assessor's roll in the fall of
Collect
2018. They'll get a full year's collection, and they'll get their money in 19, so they won't miss any funding.
Well, that's good. As
Basically,
long as we don't miss that, that's
throughout if it
fine.
passes in the spring of 2018. That's great.
Yes.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
that's good advice. We know what to do.
Thank you all very much. Happy Easter to all y'all.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you, Mr. Ryan.
Mr. President,
Now we can start.
That's great.
number 9 is the parish president's report.
Not gonna go out. They're gonna keep that fun coming in.
No, we added one. This is actually 10. Yes, come on up.
Well, this is Autism Month, and I'm going to ask Ms. Jamie Kendall to step up here with me. Every year we proclaim a month. Come on up, Jamie. You want me to read this? I can read it. Proclamation?
Sure.
Whereas autism is a lifelong developmental difference associated with significant, well, I don't know if I can read it or not, alteration of an individual's ability to learn in the same way as others, which may include differences in social behaviors and communications. And whereas autism, also known as autism spectrum disorders, affects people regardless of race, religion, socioeconomic status, or geography. And whereas the incidence of autism in the United States is approximately 1 in 68 according to the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. And whereas evidence suggests autism is a result of neurological abnormalities affecting the functioning of the brain, and few members of the general public understand this complex syndrome. And whereas persons with autism can be helped to reach their greatest potential, and accurate early diagnosis and resulting appropriate education and interventions, as well as community acceptance and accommodations, are vital to the future growth and development of the individual. And whereas autism is a complex set of differences that requires increased research to one day better understand it, and whereas the greater recognition and understanding of autism can ensure that individuals with autism are accurately diagnosed and appropriately treated throughout their lives, I now therefore hear Leighton Ricks, Livingston Parish President, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2017 as Autism Awareness Month. And Ms. Jamie, I'm going to present that to you. And I know you're going to talk about the run. Okay, I'm going to step aside so she can talk about the run. I know none of you have gym shorts and none of you are going to be running, but you all might ought to.
What does that mean?
I can look. I mean, I see. Go ahead, Jamie. I'm going to
Thank you so
step
much.
aside.
However, there's a walk too. So
walk too.
There's a walk. A week from this Saturday, April 22nd, on the grounds of the Louisiana State Police on Independence Boulevard, we'll have our 8th annual Active for Autism event.
Have him turn around and give them the camera.
Hey.
Oh, from this one?
Oh, is it that one?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
It's okay, now everybody knows.
Okay.
Advertise for everyone. But I'm with Families Helping Families of Greater Baton Rouge, and we serve Livingston Parish when it comes to autism, and I'm the director there. But I live in Livingston Parish and have all my life. And so the big picture of what Families Helping Families does, and I think everybody has a packet, the brochure. We help all people with all disabilities at all ages, and we offer resources completely free. So that's our big thing. And supporting other families is really important to us. But we're here today to talk about April being Autism Awareness Month. And being our 8th year, we've literally had between, depending on the rain, it's not going to rain this year, but anywhere from 3,500 to 6,000 people out, many with autism, to celebrate, really. So awareness. And I think, most of us are probably aware of what autism is now. I mean, almost everybody knows somebody with autism these days. 1 in 68, it's 1 in 54 when it comes to boys. But let's go a step further. How about acceptance? Are we there yet? Are we accepting people with all the differences that those with autism have? So we really hope to, the reason it's so important to come out is because you get to spend a few hours that morning from like 8 to 12 with many people, adults and children with autism. And you really get to be firsthand to see them and see that they're not that much different than all of us. And so ultimately our mission is to create a community of inclusion, so that all of our people with and without disabilities together in the same churches and perhaps on the council one day and anywhere that others can be. So that's our big picture. I have a son, Alex, who usually comes, and he's one of your biggest fans, Mr. Butler. Yeah. But and that's what he says. Why can't we just all be together, Mom? And he also says, he uses a wheelchair, and he also says, where's all the sidewalks? Why doesn't everybody have ramps? So we can move toward that one day, universal design. But today, we're here to celebrate the 8th annual and come out. It doesn't cost anything to come out. However, it's a fundraiser that completely supports the Resource Center for Autism Spectrum Disorders. And for $20, You get a T-shirt, you can run the 5K. It's 30 vendors with family-friendly activities. There'll be great food, and it's just a really beautiful day. So you can go to the website and you can donate or register right there, and everybody gets a shirt. Speaking of shirts, hold on 1 second. I'm not going to take much more time. Where to go? So I am presenting Vice President Blake Ricks with Alex is 18. That's my son's name. They're neon, so they'll glow in the dark. But more importantly, a family from Livingston Parish, the Peters family, is here with us tonight, and they just wanted to say a couple of words, right? And then that'll be that, because this family is why we have the walk, and to help them and support them. Okay? It's all yours.
Thank you all very much for allowing us to speak. And yes, we support the walk many years now. So our son Jared, he was diagnosed at age 3, and lots of therapy, lots of improvement over the last years, and we're very proud of him. And we love.
Allergic to rosemary.
So yes, just thank y'all for everything y'all do and supporting this cause. And just recently we opened a center here in Livingston Parish where he gets his therapy now. So we're driving to Baton Rouge 5 days a week, hour and a half in traffic every day to and from. So now we get to go somewhere closer for therapy, and that's been a true blessing over this last couple of years. So again, thank y'all for everything y'all do in the parish, and we really do appreciate it.
I will have to say that being a resident of Livingston Parish is very important to me. I was born and raised in Livingston Parish. Some of you that are sitting on the council now knew me way before I knew who you were. So I will tell you, I am very, very, very thankful to have had an opportunity to be able to move back to the parish that I was born and raised in, and to see that I moved from a parish in North Louisiana to a parish that I call home, but also could be a home for my son, that I had help, that I had support. And I will tell you, we have him at North Live Oak Elementary School, and I could not speak more highly of the faculty there. And it's very important to us to have inclusion and to have opportunities for our children to be able to thrive and grow and be able to be who God created them to be. I will tell you, he's absolutely brilliant, but we started 5 years ago with really not being able to communicate. We had to force feed, we had to hold down to toilet for a long time, and it took a long time. And now we're to a point where he wants to talk all the time, and we're at a point now where he is in the first grade at North Live Oak Elementary with the faculty there, but he also has been tested to exceed 5th grade level. So we are very, very, very thankful. We highly, highly support families helping families, and we are very, very, very thankful for all the work that they do. And thank you so much to the council and to Parish President Clayton Ricks for everything that y'all do for families, the hundreds of families that are in this parish that need this support. Okay,
so thank you so
Mommy,
much.
I want to talk.
Say thank you, everyone.
Thank you. But wait, I want to say something.
We'll tell them thank you.
Thank you. No, that's not it.
Mama, you said go to.
And the 8th annual autism is April 22nd.
There you go.
There you go, buddy. There's nothing. There's nothing.
Yeah.
So Ms. Thomas, your principal?
Say yes, sir.
Get him, make sure he's in
Oh, that's nice.
Great.
I was trying to stay out of the
Get to it and
I'll take, put him right behind his son, where he's just kind of standing with it in front of him.
Stand right here.
You there, Bo? Come on, John, wide angle.
I don't think
thank you.
Just break it off, we'll put you a new one. Hey.
I was just informed by.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, you don't want me to out you, man, I'm sorry.
Did you try and go get the chair?
No.
All right, item 10 is the Office of Homeland Security, Emergency Preparedness.
Do the minutes.
I'll do it.
You confusing me.
You want this right here? You want to see it?
Not yet.
And I don't think Mr. Harrell's here today, so go back and the adoption of the minutes for the March 23rd, 2017 regular meeting, March 23rd, 2017 meeting of the Juban Crossing Community Development District, and the March 23rd, 2017 meeting of the Juban Crossing Economic Development District. Ms. Sandy, you said we could do all these at one time?
By consent, if nobody objects.
I'll make a motion, we adopt those minutes as recorded.
Motion by Mr. Wascom, second by Mr. King. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So adopted.
All right, now we're back on track.
Item 11, Planning Commission recommendations, Mr. Sam DiGirolamo.
Watch it. They leaving?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First on the agenda would be the servitude revocation, which was tabled at our Planning Commission, so we'll probably present that next council meeting.
Okay.
Next on your agenda is your M Lake Mobile Home Community. This is a mobile home park. This is in Mr. Scooter King's area, Ward 2 water off Arnold Road. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for the M Lake Mobile Home Community contingent on street name approval. And we got that in today.
That was
So,
good.
yes, sir.
All right.
So everything's good to go.
Bubba, you want to talk about that?
Yes, I would. I was at the Planning Commission meeting whenever this was approved. And I think this is the first time in history we've ever had something like this to come across and not ask for any waivers. They went exactly by the ordinance. And if we had more of that coming in here, it'd make our job a lot easier.
I believe Mr. Jeff, the engineer of the project, when he presented it, he said, I think I followed all you guys' rules.
Well,
Yeah.
We commend you for that, Mr. Jeff.
look, it's a skinny piece of property that backs up the creek, and they were able to put a circle in.
It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Wow.
So yeah, I'd like to make a motion to accept those recommendations.
M Lake Mobile Home Community preliminary
thank you
site
for-
plan. Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Harris. Any discussion from the audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item C.
That's how that happens, fellas, when it comes to us, and it's right.
Next on the agenda is the multifamily development for preliminary site plan. This is in Mr. Bubba Harris's district. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for the Juban Ridge contingent on receiving all notification letters, fire district, sewer district, drainage district, and school board waiver letters for this buffer zone and changing the map to show Ward 2 water, the map to show Ward 2 water.
Have you received any of those letters yet,
Crest.
Preston?
So if I may, all contingent items were addressed with the exception of the buffer zone waiver letter. I believe the adjacent owner is here tonight, and I think it's just a technicality.
Okay.
What's the purpose for not going with the 50-foot servitude? Just curious.
On the buffer.
I think the owner that sold the property to the developer is the same owner that's adjacent to the property, am I correct, Ken? So he didn't have a problem with it. I mean, they wanted to, I guess, get a little closer so the building could be a little bigger.
This is a two-story multifamily, that's one.
Yes, it is.
50 foot.
Yes, that's right.
We
It's a
got an
two-story.
ordinance, item 16 tonight is an ordinance that specifically stops that from happening. Specifically stops adjacent landowners from giving waivers on buffer zones without coming before.
Well, since this one was
Yeah.
prior to the ordinance,
Got this one. And that's what
we make a motion to accept it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in agreement with you. It's not an ordinance yet, therefore it's moot.
I agree, we do need it in an ordinance.
I
but it's
agree we
not
do
one
too,
now.
but no.
But the ordinance we're gonna be looking at stops it unless we say it's okay. In other words, they can't just get a letter signed and then it's okay.
That's correct.
Okay, well, tonight, that's a non-issue on this issue.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I just got another simple question. So are we allowing them to get a letter of no objection? I mean, what are we doing? We're just giving them a waiver to reduce the buffer zone to 25 feet?
In the ordinance, if they get a letter.
If they get a
no
letter.
objections, you're not giving them a waiver on that.
Okay.
It states that in the ordinance.
So it states in the ordinance that
That's
if they
correct.
get the letter of no objection,
No objection.
they're good to go.
That's correct.
The current
They have the
ordinance.
letter.
So,
right
and they have the letter.
And I
Yep,
think,
that's the
that,
letter.
like I say, the guy that sold the property is an adjacent
adjacent
homeowner,
landowner.
landowner.
Yeah,
And,
he wants it to happen.
Yeah, he's
So
got it.
basically, they are abiding by the ordinance.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Completely.
We have the letter here. right
Yeah.
there. This spelling his name.
Yeah, see, that's the whole thing. They didn't
Well-
submit the letter because the letter is a technicality in the letter. Otherwise, this would be a moot point. And so,
Well,
I get you.
They approved it on contingent of getting the letter.
That's
So, I
fine.
mean, you guys can just.
And they have the
echo,
letter.
You know, the resolution.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can go back after the, later on and amend the ordinance to take that out, guys, if you want to.
I think that's what we're doing tonight.
No, it's not the same. It's not the same. It's actually different. It's a different part of the ordinance
Oh, okay.
that we're taking out tonight.
All right.
And,
So we got-
so,
All right, well, we got them.
that's
All
right.
right, we got a motion?
Yeah.
Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Avery.
Okay.
Any further discussion from the audience? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Mr. Sam?
Next on the agenda is commercial development, Jubin Road Mini Storage. This is located on Jubin Road next to corner of Hemisphere and Jubin. This is also in Mr. Bubba Harris's district. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Jubin Road Mini Storage contingent on receiving letters from the Sewer District, Drainage District, and Fire District. Mr. Preston, have we
The only
got,
outstanding letter is the fire district.
right?
But fire chief was at the planning commission.
So,
We still don't have the letter, they're aware.
Is this tying into Denham, or is this tying into, it says municipal, is this tying into Denham?
You talk about sewer? Denham Springs sewer, I don't think goes to Jubin Road.
They were saying sewer.
No.
I think it does tie into sewer, Livingston Parish sewer.
Yeah, not.
So it's tied into
Yes,
new
I think
sewer.
that's, I think they go up that, I'll go
Yeah,
down
'cause I
that
think it
far.
stops it. Forest of that, maybe, a little bit below.
With Denham Springs?
Yeah.
They indicated they'll either tie into existing sewer or pump it if
It
necessary.
goes, it goes down Pete's Highway to Jubin, but it don't go interstate to Jubin. That's true.
Okay.
Have a motion?
Now, I'm off the motion.
Motion by Mr. Harris. Second.
Yeah, well,
Second by
I'll
Mr. King.
second, yeah.
Any discussion from the audience? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
You know, we just asking all these questions because you and
All
I.
right. Item 12. I'm not in a hurry. Planning Department.
We want to ask you guys to, we went out and made a final inspection on Woodland Crossing to accept into the parish maintenance.
Everything was good, Sam, all the roads were
Yes,
good?
yes, yes. If there had been a problem, I would bring that forward to you
Oh, never
guys.
mind, Jeff got.
Everything was fine.
So we gonna accept and release, can we accept and release a bond in the same motion? We can
Yes,
accept.
yes. Well, I don't know if you want to do it separate, that's up to y'all.
I'm fine with doing both at the same.
Release the bond.
That's all one thing, yeah.
Be efficient. Motion by Mr. Calvert, second by Mr. Avery. Any discussion from the audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Next on your agenda is Arbor Walk, same situation. I'm making a recommendation to accept this Arbor Walk third and fourth filing into our parish maintenance and release $129,993.47 maintenance bond.
Sam,
Motion by
Yes,
is
sir.
Mr.
that
Faber.
the same area that you and I were talking about?
That's that big old area.
I know, but it comes
Goes
out.
from Buddy Ellis all the way to Pete's Highway, you know, I mean, it's just filing after subdivision after subdivision.
That's where the dirt trucks are going?
Sir?
Is that the same one where the dirt trucks are going?
No, no,
Okay.
no, no, no,
I think that's
Yeah, they're
it.
coming.
no.
Coming from.
You can't get there from here.
Can't get there from here.
Any discussion from the audience?
Now, that's tied in, Bubba, to that one, but that's a different filing.
Yeah.
It's not the same filing.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you,
Sam,
sir.
you wanted to move item 21 up?
Well, I believe Mr. John's going to handle 21, and I'll just sit here to support him if he needs be.
Thank you, Mr. Sam.
All right. Well, then we'll go ahead and move that up for Mr. Sam's sake. Item 21, name an unnamed creek that runs under North River Road Bridge. Dead End Creek.
Oh, well,
That's original.
what it is when the flood came, it wiped out a bridge on North River Road, and it's a major thoroughfare from Watson down to the interstate. People use that bridge all the time, and so the bridge has just got holes in it. It's in bad shape. So what we've done, it's been blocked off, and to get it repaired, we're just trying to get funding for it. Well, we thought we was going to get funding earlier, but it didn't happen. But we now have the ability to get federal funding through the state. But to do that, we've got to have a name for this bridge. And so it goes over a creek that is dead-ended just before it gets to Highway 16. So the great minds have come up with Dead End Creek Bridge. So what we need to do is, if possible, just adopt a resolution naming this bridge the Dead End Creek Bridge, so we can get this federal funding to get this bridge fixed.
Doesn't that bridge start in Watson? Well, I'm just kidding. No, it's,
I'm just picking.
we are on the line.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt a resolution adopting the name of this bridge, the Dead End Creek Bridge. Is that what we need, Sam?
So you're naming the.
Sam, is that,
I could,
that's what, is that in the city then?
I could do so much with this.
No, it's right outside.
Because it's right beside the cemetery.
Well,
No, you gotta
we
name
need
the creek.
we need to name the creek.
right behind
Sam, we need to name the creek, not the
creek.
bridge.
Yeah, creek.
So
Dead End
name the creek Dead End Creek.
And I'll
That's the
second
bridge, that this bridge
So we can
goes
get
over.
this bridge fixed, because it's a nightmare for me getting it.
All right.
I gotta go around it all the time.
It's a dead end out there.
Yeah.
Who made that motion?
He motioned and I seconded.
Motion by Mr. Wascom. Second?
I'll second.
By Scooter.
Yeah.
Mr. King. Any discussion from the audience? Any further discussion from the council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
All right, now let's fix the bridge.
New Creek.
Let's get that
Let's
bridge.
fix the bridge, that's right.
All right.
So we're looking at approximately 4 months, Sam?
Oh, don't make me go. It's handled by the state, and, you know, they're
I know.
not as aggressive.
I'm not quite sure what, I think item 13.
You're right.
We are now entering a public hearing. Public hearing and adoption of LP ordinance number 17-04, height restrictions for the Livingston Regional Airport.
Mr. You can do all three public
This-
hearings.
So, Kim? Okay. Public hearing for adoption of LP ordinance number 17-11, declare certain adjudicated property surplus and to authorize the sale of said property to adjoining landowners, Ronald Stacy Phipps and Cheryl Graffia Phipps, their agents as or assigned, and public hearing and adoption of LP ordinance number 17-12, declare certain adjudicated properties surplus to authorize the sale of said property to adjoining landowner, Pine Shadow Property LLC, its agents or assigns. Any discussion from the audience?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Well, you got one more,
We got one more
16.
vote.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, 17-3.
Up.
Oh. Public hearing adoption of LP ordinance number 17-13, amends sections 13-67.1D, commercial development buffer zones.
That's what he was talking about a while ago.
Any discussion from the audience?
Public hearing.
Thank you, John.
I'm sorry.
Public hearing is now closed.
Motion to close the public hearing.
A motion to public.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Wascom, second by Mr. Ard. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting is now, public hearing is now closed. Any discussion from the council?
I just want to say, I think Gary was right earlier. I think it is the same. And,
Which one?
well, when he was talking about having to have the letter of no objection, I thought that was in a different area. But after tonight, after we pass this, then you're going to have to come before the council if you don't want to abide by the 25-foot setback and if you don't want to have an 8-foot fence.
They can't just get a letter.
They can't just get a letter of no objection.
If you want a waiver on setback, you're gonna have to come to us to get the waiver. Because
Right.
what happens is, we have one landowner who sold a piece of property, grant the person receiving the property a waiver. Yet, it's obvious that the property next to him is gonna be for sale for commercial also, or whatever, and you know, so he's not gonna be there.
Yeah, he'll probably wind up selling the property, and the next property owner is going to want the setback.
With what he's done to the people around him, so.
Right.
The feeling is that if you wanna eliminate the buffer zone and eliminate the fencing, that the council needs to come to it, and the people around it need to be able to speak them.
Right.
So that, you know, it's not a business deal that grants a buffer, or grants a waiver, that the public who's affected has the
That's
ability
right.
to speak.
And earlier, those guys were abiding by the current ordinance, and they are going to have a 25-foot setback. They're just not going to have a 50 because they got the letter of no
Which is what a
objection.
two-story calls for in the multifamily.
Right. So I'd like to make a motion that we adopt this ordinance.
Okay, do you need to read?
Do you need to read?
Are we taking the rest
Take
Yeah,
of them out
we-
of order?
You need to take them, well, you can take that one out of order, but you need to do that for each of these.
Okay, we'll go with 13 first. We'll just start with the first.
Then,
Yeah, we're going to do them all.
okay.
Go ahead.
This is proposed ordinance 17-4. This is an ordinance regulating and restricting the height of structures and objects of natural growth, and otherwise regulating the use of property in the vicinity of the Livingston Regional Airport by creating the appropriate zones and establishing the boundaries thereof, providing for such changes in the restrictions and boundaries of such zones, defining certain terms used herein, referring to the Livingston Regional Airport height limitation and zoning district map, which is incorporated in and made a part of this chapter, providing for enforcement, establishing a board of adjustment, and imposing penalties.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Talbot,
I'll have the,
second by Mr.
Dad's
Mr.
coming.
Harris.
This
Sandy,
is,
would
this
you
is,
call the vote,
a, this is
please?
a great ordinance, though, by the way. It's really going to move us forward with the airport.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Lidwell?
Yes.
14.
You're done.
Sandy.
This is proposed ordinance 17-11, an ordinance authorizing the Livingston Parish Council to declare certain adjudicated property surplus and authorize the sale of said property to adjoining landowners Ronald Stacy Phipps and Cheryl Graffia Phipps. Their agents are assigned for the price of $6,500, in which property is described as follows.
Need a motion? Motion by Mr. Avery,
I'll second.
Yes.
second by Mr. Mack. Ms. Sandy, you call the vote?
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Lidwell?
Yes.
Item 15.
This is proposed ordinance 17-12, an ordinance authorizing the Livingston Parish Council to declare certain adjudicated property surplus and authorize the sale of said property to adjoining landowner Pine Shadows Property LLC. Its agents are assigned for the price of $26,668, in in which property is described as follows.
Can I ask a question? Is this the last piece of adjudicated property that's not gonna go before the people?
I was told that we
Civic
had
Source.
3, and this is the last one.
Third one, right?
This
Yeah.
is the third one, so we're done. After
That's
this
correct.
piece of adjudicated property, everything will go to Civic Source from now on.
Right, and as of Sunday
That's my
night, we had like
understanding, yes.
95 on Civic Source, so people, please go and buy this property. It
I'll make
needs,
the motion.
needs to be, and I'll say.
Motion, Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. King. Sorry, I forgot your name there for a minute.
Again?
Yeah, you know. Sandy, would you call the vote, please?
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
He
stepped out.
Wow.
We're born
Mr.
out.
Greenhouse.
come back.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Averett.
Yes.
Mr. Lidwell.
Yes.
Item 16.
This is proposed ordinance 17-13. This is an ordinance to amend chapter 13, planning and development, section 13-67.1, commercial development buffer zone by deleting part D of the code of ordinances in the Livingston Parish.
Basically, guys, what we're going to do when we delete this section is we're going to do away with the letter of no objection. Because you take somebody that owns 2 pieces of property, they can sign their own letter of no objection and get it notarized and not abide by the ordinance and not have any type of setback or fence, and then sell the property, and the new property owner might not realize it and be all upset because they don't have it. So, caused some problems in the past, and we want to take care of that problem. So, after tonight, if they want a waiver and not have a setback, they'll have to go before the council.
So, Mr. Mack, is that a motion?
That's a motion. Thank you.
Why do we have to have waivers? I mean, if everybody abides by the ordinance, then that cuts out any waivers.
Well,
Well, we can talk about that, but in my opinion, the ordinance ain't perfect, and it's hard to write a perfect ordinance or policy, and there are cases where
It's always the case you need a waiver.
adjustments need to be made. That's just how I feel.
Second, second by Mr. Averett.
Well, I agree with that sometimes, that we do have to have a waiver.
You do.
We need to watch what we waive.
Well, in a vacuum, an ordinance can look so good that you think it should. And then there's always typically something that comes up and you go, well,
Agreed, yeah.
You gotta-
We've
you gotta-
talked about
yeah.
this. You adamant about
But if
waiver.
they-
We don't want to do a
everybody would do
waiver.
it.
Yep.
Let's change the rules. But then if you change the rules and allow all of it,
Right.
I agree.
yeah. So
I just think ultimately the buck needs to stop at the council, and if we're gonna grant a waiver, we need to grant a waiver.
I
right.
agree.
We
I
don't
agree
need
with
to
that.
dodge, we don't need to dodge and let somebody else be responsible. If we think a waiver needs to be granted, then it needs to stop here, and we need to grant it.
I agree.
And we've been doing that as a group, guys, and if we look at them hard, it doesn't mean we all agree. Because some
Right.
of us will have yeses, some will have nos, and that's okay. But if we get to see it, at least the council made the final call on this. Didn't have to put it on anybody else, just on us.
Yep.
Ms. Sandy, did you call the vote?
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Averett.
Yes.
Mr. Lidwell.
Yes.
Item 17, introduce an ordinance, sale of surplus property, supplies and materials. Mr. Talbert?
The council, employees were cleaning up, and we've got a bunch of surplus stuff at the housekeeping, and the only way for us to dispose of it, we can either throw it away or we can declare it surplus. So we're gonna declare it surplus, see if we can get any money for it. If not, we're gonna throw it away, but we gotta do this.
Yeah.
We gotta do it on this one, then we gotta do it on some computer equipment,
Yep.
so it's just a process we gotta go through.
Need a motion?
Both items?
Yes.
Can I read it by title?
You certainly can, please.
This will be proposed ordinance 17-14. This is an ordinance to declare certain surplus property, supplies, and materials no longer needed for public purposes, provide for its sale by internet sales and/or public auction, and to provide for terms of sale. Public hearing will be at 6 p.m., April 27th.
Thank you. Any discussion from the audience? Did I get a motion in a second?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Mr. Tower, second from Mr. Ard. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Item 18, introduce an ordinance, sale of surplus property, computer equipment. Mr. Tower, this is what
Same
you...
thing. Sandy, you wanna read it? I'll make the motion to introduce,
Yes.
please.
This will be proposed ordinance 17-15, an ordinance to declare certain surplus property, computer equipment no longer needed for public purposes to provide for sale by internet sales and/or public auction, and to provide for terms of sale. Public hearing will be at 6 p.m. April 27th.
Any discussion from the audience? Any further discussion from the council? Do I need a motion?
I'm a motion.
Second by Mr. Ard. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item 19, introduce an ordinance for three-way stop at South Satsuma Road and Hood Road. Mr. Averett.
Yes, that's a very dangerous curve right there. You can't see from the trees and it's curved, and it's just really hard. If you're going on the Hood Road, it's really hard to, it's almost a guessing game if you can go or not. So we'd like to, make an ordinance, put a three-way stop there.
Motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Yep.
Can I read it real fast to give it a number?
Certainly.
Okay. This will be proposed ordinance 17-16, an ordinance to amend and reenact section 10-9A, stop signs, zero stop, of the Code of Ordinances for the Parish of Livingston, to add an intersection at Hood Road and South Satsuma Road. The public hearing will be April 27th at 6 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Averett, second by Mr. Ard. I'm sorry.
That's what I'm blame the country.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Item 20 is adopt a resolution, reduce the speed limit in dangerous curve located on Duff Road. This is in my district.
Oh, that's a fun curve, isn't it?
Well, I think I went and mapped it out. It was 3.4 miles, which I didn't realize the road was that long.
It's a while.
I got on it. It was 3.4 miles from Burgess Avenue
All the way to Arnold.
and 0.4 miles, I think, from Arnold. And this curve is nasty.
It is.
It's a nasty curve. And I want them to reduce the speed limit. I think that's at 15. Because you really cannot navigate that curve at a safe, anything above that. And it's, quite frankly, I don't know. It's like one of the worst things I've ever seen as far as
Is
a
it going
curve
to keep
goes.
people off that pine tree?
Well, I think the trees are all gone now for people leaving the road.
The houses. Yeah.
So I need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'm sorry, Ms. Sanders, read this.
It's a resolution,
It's
so
a
you don't have to read
resolution,
it.
my bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Unless you want me to, I can
No,
read the
it's-
resolution.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Motion by Mr. Mack. Second by Mr. Harris. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right. With item 22, accept Connolly Court into the parish maintenance system. Mr. Wasker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd ask this one to be put on the council agenda. It's a sharp road right off of what's known as Old River Road in Denham Springs. It's it's about 7 houses. They're side by side. It's a very short road.
You know about how long it is?
I'm gonna say 800 feet,
Okay.
1,000 feet. It's not a real long road, but it's blacktop already. It's just never been in the parish maintenance system, so the parish hasn't been able to repair any potholes or just do some basic maintenance on it. So I'd like to make a motion that we bring this road into the parish maintenance
So
system.
this road was probably constructed before the current ordinance ever came into play.
Absolutely. This is way back when, 20, 30 years ago, 30, 40 years ago.
He'd sit on the gun
When
and
he walked
done.
out.
No, you need him?
I'm just wondering, we,
Huh?
There's an ordinance that says criteria for-
You have to waive the ordinance, like change it.
You need a waiver.
Oh, so a motion to waive the ordinance is what you need. Okay.
And accept it.
so,
And to accept it.
I got a question. I've got a question. We got roads that are private in this parish that have been developed and some of them impaired pretty bad disrepair. And I'm just wondering if we'd be better off, I don't know how we do this, we'd be better off to go fill some potholes on some of these roads than it would be to take them in the system. because then you're maintaining something that's not designed up to standard.
Well, and
Oh,
the
that's
people
where you
that live
can-
on them that pay taxes are getting some
But
repairs for their
Gary,
taxes.
we can ask Mr. Moody's assistant.
Well, that's what,
You're gonna
that's why I asked.
You're gonna actually be spending taxpayer money on private property. That's
Yeah.
probably gonna be illegal.
That's
Well,
my question on the,
I understand, but I'm just wondering if we not creating a worse situation than we would if we didn't. Okay, so we got a road. Doesn't meet the current standards by any definition. But we got 7 citizens that live on
Well,
it.
it does meet by some definition.
Yeah, that's kind of harsh. It does meet,
It does meet by some of the definition.
It's a road.
Well, no, it's got seven houses on it that pay property
I
tax.
guess what I'm saying is, we don't know what the base, we don't know what the base is, we don't know what the
Width is.
what the width is.
But we do know that it's been in existence for quite a long time.
I understand that, and it's not been in the system for quite a long time.
No, but it's been in existence.
Okay, so my question is, if we start taking these roads in, they're ours forever. And we end up upgrading them from where they currently were designed. Would we be?
Wait,
would we?
I object. We did not talk about upgrading from current design.
Well,
We did not talk about overlaying. We're talking about adopting it into the parish maintenance system, like 90,000% of the parish roads
So-
that currently exist in the parish maintenance system.
okay, so my question is, if we bring in the parish maintenance system, is it gonna hit the road list immediately, or are we gonna wait a couple of years before we put it
Well, I
on?
mean, you hate to make promises you can't keep, but we have about 1,800 miles, am I right about that?
800.
800 miles of road in Livingston Parish, and we're currently overlaying about 10 per year. So I think that in about 100 years, or am I calculating this correctly?
It's close.
I'd have to get my calculator out.
Well-
but I think in about 150 years, we can put this road on the overlay system and overlay this road.
True, but I think what he's saying is, and just not to put words about, it should get done after every road that's on the list right now, and the ones that aren't on the list.
It's a top priority. I mean, we really,
My question was, Chris, before,
Got a motion in a second.
was,
A motion.
I make the motion, we accept it.
I had that motion, I'm just looking for a second.
Oh, I'll second it.
Motion for the waiver.
A motion for the waiver?
Yeah.
Well, actually, he made the motion.
Mr. Moody.
I would,
Well, that was a question.
the question was, we got a road that's not in the system, it's not
Right.
part of the parish system. We got 7 citizens that live on it, pay taxes, and the taxes, they use other roads in the parish, so their taxes, goes to a lot of other things.
Right.
My question is, we're gonna take a road into the parish that doesn't meet
Right.
the current standard, it's not up to snuff, and we're
Right.
gonna end up at some point in time upgrading.
Right.
My question is there any possibility that we could do some repair on it without taking it in the system? It's not
No, sir.
possible.
It's not a public road. You can't spend public funds. It's against the Constitution.
I mean, I
And
figured
I understand the proposition before you. It's been done hundreds of times, if not thousands of times in this parish. But I mean, your ordinance is a good one. I mean, and it's going to protect your resources. You just don't have the resources to pave all the roads. So your way to battle that is to make sure they're to your standards before you bring them in. Because at the rate they're building subdivisions, in about 10 or 15 years, you're going to have way more roads to deal with. So anyway, I understand it's politically not popular, but I would recommend bringing in any roads that don't meet your
Gotta
standards.
say no sometimes.
Yes, sir.
I disagree.
here's one thing I would like to say. I have the same problems in my district. Have this one particular subdivision, it's called Clear Lake, right off the interstate by the Shell Station, Juban Road. It's all a private development in there, and has been for years. The man that developed this, he was keeping the roads up. Well, he passed away.
Is that right?
Yeah. And now, there's nobody keeping the roads up. I'm working, and I think this is what everybody should look at. I'm working with engineers, getting a cost estimate on redoing all these roads in here. The people are going to be discussing it between themselves. They may vote a tax in on themselves to redo this road, bring it to parish standards so it can be brought into the parish system and then we could continue the maintenance on it.
You could begin to make.
That is a great idea. It really, really is.
I know places that's happened.
But I would like to also say that would really work if you had a ton of houses on a road where you could collect a lot of funds. But when you got 7 people, those people will never be able to put a program together or never be able to pay to bring that road up to standard.
And they're not asking to bring this road up
We're
to our
not
standards.
asking to overlay the road.
Just to bring it into the parish so we can fix some potholes is what I'm asking for. That's what the motion
And I totally understand, there's a limited amount of resources. It certainly is, guys. But I just think that there are certain cases out there that...
I got a bunch of houses on this.
Hey, is there any way to bring something like this in and put a cap on the amount of funds spent on this new substandard road that we brought into the parish maintenance system?
Well, you have control over how you spend your money to fix any of your roads by adopting your priority road list and putting a budget on it. So yeah, you always have control about that.
I think the issue is if you bring them into the system, then they have the right to ask for all of it.
On the list.
I mean,
At a super low
some of these
priority.
roads could be moved to the top of that priority list.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
they're so
they're in
bad.
such poor condition.
Right.
Ahead of ones that have been public roads for 15, 20 years.
Right, and those people.
But that's what our engineers are for. Those are the guys who go out there and define what we. I understand both arguments. I have a motion by Mr. Wallace.
What is the actual waiver?
Waiver
The
to.
whole ordinance?
Yeah.
No, it's not the whole ordinance.
Whole ordinance
It
to take the
certainly is.
substandard road.
Part of the
Right,
ordinance
that's
is
seven
you gotta have the road needed to the parish. So can we accept a road in the maintenance system that's not needed to the parish?
Is it
We certainly can.
It's been done plenty of times, and after you maintain it for 3 years, it becomes a public road. So, but technically, you're supposed to have it dedicated to the public, because otherwise, you're working on a private road. So,
Who would take offense to that if,
well, I mean, in that particular situation, you would see who has the title to the underlying
I'm talking
road.
about, would it be a government entity looking at us and going, why are they spending?
Sure. I mean, it's technically against the Constitution.
I got 2 comments on that right there. Number 1, I live on a parish road, and my property goes to the middle of that road, and the parish is not on that road.
Right,
Okay?
it's been
But they do
dedicated.
maintain it. And I would also like to say that in these new subdivisions, where the high-dollar developers develop those subdivisions, it's to the best of my knowledge that those roads are not owned by the parish.
That's not right.
Well, that's partly right.
They don't deed it over to the parish, do they?
No, but they're dedicated, so
They're
when you record
dedicated.
that plat.
The parish doesn't own the road.
Once you record the plat and it's accepted, then those become dedicated streets, and they become public streets. Whether the underlying dirt is owned by the landowner, the parish does have the right-of-way and the servitude, and it becomes a public road.
Well, yeah, right-of-ways and servitudes, but they don't own it. They don't own the property.
There's a difference between, a right-of-way is different
parish
from
don't.
servitude.
Now, in some situations, the parish does own the dirt, owns the underlying road. So there's all kinds of ways to acquire this. So, I mean, I recommend strongly that any road that's brought in be brought to standard, and that it be dedicated with a plat, and so everybody knows who owns the property rights on the road, and you don't get crosswise with the law about paving roads that are not really public yet. So it's been done before, but it's been against my advice.
Well, what happened in the past on various situations is the landowners or property owners didn't want to dedicate the roads to the parish because they were losing mineral rights.
Right.
And that's what started this whole thing, about not dedicating roads.
They can withhold the mineral rights now for 10 years. Actually, if they're just dedicating the right-of-way, they can keep the mineral rights forever. That's been litigated in other parishes. But Mr. Harris has the right solution. People that really want their roads brought in can vote a tax on themselves if they can't just pony up the money. And that tax can accumulate for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and so that you can then pave the road, or the parish could fund the money knowing they could be repaid by the tax. So that is the way to get these other substantial roads in the most responsible way.
Well, it was added, the ones that I know of that's been done like that, it was added to the property assessment. Right. Because it's the cost is by linear feet of lot.
That's how they do it in the rest of the country.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion.
Before we vote-
We're voting. We have a motion by Mr. Wassam, a second.
To bring the road into the parish maintenance system, yes.
Yeah, but that's not what we're doing.
To grant the.
Grant a waiver and receive it into the parish maintenance.
Yes.
Grant the whole way.
Just like we did last meeting with one of the roads that Mr.
So-
Mack had.
Motion is to grant a waiver. Motion by Mr. Wassam, second by Mr. Mack. Ms. Sandy, would you call the vote?
Mr. Ard,
No.
Mr. Wascom,
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
No.
Mr. Talbert,
No.
Mr. Mack,
Yes.
Mr. Averett,
Yes.
Mr. Lobel.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 23, adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver and approve a second address to the issue. Gentlemen,
Excuse me, sir.
can we continue with the meeting?
Absolutely.
Adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver and approve a second address to the issue to a second mobile home on a lot with an existing mobile home to assist a flood victim for property owners Cheryl and Charles McMorris located on South Satsuma Road. Mr. Averett.
It's a flood victim, and good friends offered him a place to live. And they didn't realize at the time, they couldn't do it without getting a waiver. And I'm asking for a waiver.
Is this temporary?
I don't know how temporary to be. They're just lifelong friends, grew up together, and they just doing a good deed for a friend. It could be a year, it could be 3 or 4 years. I'm not going to say that.
I'll second that motion. If that's a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Avery, second by Mr. Wassam. Any further discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Sandy, would you call the vote, please?
Mr. Ard,
Yes.
Mr. Wascom,
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Talbert,
Yes.
Mr. Mack,
Yes.
Mr. Averett,
Yes.
Mr. Lobel.
Yes.
Item 24, adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver for the allowance of a second and third mobile home to be placed on a 1-acre tract from a direct descending heir and must meet the requirements of the multiple address application with affidavit from Ronald Adcock, 24239 Earl Cheney Road. Mr. Avery.
Yes, that's actually Miss Melissa Thornton. And if I'm not mistaken, it's her mother and her daughter that was flood victims. And they're just trying to get back to a little normalcy in their life too. And I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Avery,
I'll second that one as well.
second by Mr. Wascom. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item 26, District Attorney Report.
Nothing.
Item 27, Committee Reports.
Nothing from finance.
All right. And item 28 is Councilman's comments. This is something we just put in so we can cover everything when you talk about generalized things like trash bash, any random stuff that Mr. Tower comes up with at time to time.
Flag flash, we covered 20 miles in about just over an hour. We were done.
All right.
Like the way he says we.
All right. Hey, I need a motion to adjourn. Motion by Avery, second by Mr. Wassam.
Bottom of the 4, live of the 5, walking up.
Oh, that was on the call.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed?